Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a fascinating collection of research. It's all focused on scaling organizations, leadership development, but maybe through a lens you haven't considered much. It's about reproduction through, well, really intentional personal relationships. If you're leading anything, a team, a nonprofit, a business unit, you probably focus on metrics of addition. How many new members? How many attendees? How many sales?
Standard stuff, counting what comes in.
Right. But these sources we've looked at, they're mostly operational guides, some case studies. They reveal this kind of paradox. They suggest the key to really explosive exponential growth, what we'll call multiplication, isn't just doing more addition. It involves a pretty radical shift in who is doing the counting, who's tracking the progress.
That's exactly it. The traditional way often creates this invisible ceiling, a limit based on how much the core leader or the main team can handle personally.
Hits a wall.
It does. So our mission today really is to unpack how a simple thing, basically a tracking tool, can shift, how it moves from being maybe an administrative comfort for leaders to becoming this catalytic engine, something that actually transforms followers into multiplying leaders themselves. We're really drilling down into the mechanics of building a movement that sustains itself.
Yeah, and the central question that kind of unlocks this whole thing, it's the hook. The real measure isn't just how many people am I reaching directly. It's more like who is now reaching others because of my investment in them.
That second and third generation.
If you can systematically track and scale that influence, well, that's when you break free from just adding one by one. Okay, let's dive right into that core paradox then. This shift from basic addition to what the sources call entrustment, the old way, the linear model. It usually relies on central programs.
Or a really charismatic leader, yeah. Everything flows from the center. And you measure activity attendance, maybe baptisms in a church context, event moments.
The data stays at the top.
Exactly, which creates a massive bottleneck. I mean, think about it. If only the senior folks know who's growing, who's struggling, who needs what next, you've built in this dependency. Everyone's looking up, waiting for instructions.
Right. And the sources are clear. This model, it just inevitably stalls out, usually right when the leader hits their personal capacity limit for relationships, or just the sheer admin burden of tracking everyone.
Your energy becomes the limiting factor, not the potential of the people. So you plateau.
So multiplication kicks in when that ownership, that responsibility for tracking actually moves outward. The sources call this a seismic shift.
It really is. They argue pretty strongly that if only the leaders track growth, then the people being discipled or developed, they tend to stay in that passive follower role.
Makes sense. They're being reported on, not reporting themselves.
But the moment you equip them, you give them the tool and the expectation to track their own small circle of influence. Boom. They step into a leadership mindset almost instantly. They start thinking like multipliers.
And this isn't just like a clever management trick.
No, the sources frame it more deeply. It's positioned as a practical outworking of stewardship. Caring for people with real intentionality. Tracking forces you to pay attention to specific individuals.
It makes it concrete.
Right. And when you make that growth process visible and the individual feels some accountability for it, you create the conditions for something like Paul's model in the New Testament, entrusting truth to reliable people who will then teach others. That 2 Timothy 2.2 idea. You're making that generational handoff deliberate.
Okay, so when the disciples, the people on the ground, start using these tracking tools themselves, what are the core organizational benefits? You mentioned it unlocks things.
Yeah, it does 3 really powerful interlocking things, according to the sources. First, it sharpens attention. The focus shifts immediately from did people show up to the program to how is this specific person doing in their relationship with the mission or with God? It forces relationship-centric conversations.
Less about the event, more about the person.
Precisely. Second, it provides discernment, like real clarity. With simple shared records, both the individual and maybe their coach or mentor can spot patterns much faster. Who seems stuck? Who's showing initiative? Who looks ready for more responsibility, maybe ready to lead something themselves?
Okay, attention, discernment, and the third.
And this is the big one for growth. Reproducibility. By making the steps of growth explicit, simple, and trackable, the entire process becomes teachable. It can be repeated, handed off. It's the infrastructure you absolutely need for any kind of exponential, non-linear growth.
Right, you can't reproduce something that's vague or just intuitive. You need a clear path, which I guess brings us to the tool itself. The sources detail this thing called the Connect and Progress Growth Scale, the CPGS.
Yeah, or sometimes they call it the Sower's ledger. Think of it as a really simple relational scale. Its whole job is to translate something maybe fuzzy like spiritual health or engagement level into observable steps, observable movement. It creates a shared language.
So it replaces guesswork with gentle clarity.
Compassionate clarity, yeah? Instead of just, I feel like Sarah's doing okay, you can say, okay, Sarah seems to be moving from a level 2, where she was mostly attending, to a level 3, showing real consistency in her habits. The genius is its simplicity and that focus on movement. It's not about judging someone's static position.
Okay, let's walk through those levels. You said it's like a 0 to 5 scale. Can
Yeah.
we make that concrete for the listener?
Sure. So level 0, they call it seated. This is someone who's basically unconnected, maybe just curious. There's no real engagement with the core message or mission yet. The goal here is just presence, maybe building some initial trust.
Got it. Then what's level 1, or is it straight to 2?
The sources often jump conceptually to level 2, called sprouting or connected. This is someone who's starting to engage more actively. They're showing up regularly, beginning to form those initial habits. Think of it like they're consuming the content, maybe attending meetings, but not really contributing or leading yet. Passive engagement.
Okay, showing up. Level 3.
Level 3 is rooted or growing. This is a significant step up. You see consistent involvement here. They're actively learning, trying to apply the core principles or values, practicing key disciplines or rhythms. The big difference from level 2 is that consistency and a sense of personal ownership over their journey.
Right, they're not just receiving anymore.
Yeah.
And level 4, this feels like where leadership might emerge.
Exactly. Level 4 is leading or serving. This person is starting to demonstrate leadership, maybe in small ways initially. They might be mentoring one other person informally, maybe facilitating a small group discussion, taking responsibility for a specific task or service role. They're beginning to carry some of the weight of the mission, thinking beyond just their own growth.
Okay, so contributing actively. And the top level, level 5.
Level 5 is reproducing or multiplying. This is the goal in terms of multiplication. This person is intentionally developing or discipling one or more other people using this same framework. They might be starting new small groups, new communities, new teams. They've become an engine for generating more growth, more leaders.
They're not just leading, they're creating other leaders who can also reproduce.
That's the generational engine right there. If you think in business terms, maybe level 5 is like your franchisee who is now successfully training new franchisees.
Okay, that makes sense. But you said earlier, the tool itself isn't the magic, it's the transfer.
Absolutely crucial. If this CPGS scale just sits on a spreadsheet in the main office, it's just
Right.
bureaucracy, inspection from afar. But when you actually put this simple scale, this language, into the hands of the level 3 or 4 person, the emerging leader, it becomes their compass. It helps them figure out the next specific relational step for the people they're investing in.
And that transfer, that demands some practical habits, doesn't it? Otherwise, it's just another tool they're supposed to use, but probably won't.
Exactly. It can't just be theory. This is where the sources emphasize a practice often called the 6 list. It's the core mechanism for actually decentralizing this investment.
The 6 list. Okay, what is that?
It's simple, really. Each developing leader, each disciple maintains a very short, focused list, usually just 6 to 8 people. These are the individuals they are intentionally pouring into, praying for, investing in, and they keep the CPGS level for each person on that list updated.
So it's like their personal, portable field of responsibility.
Precisely. It travels with them into their workplace, their family, their neighborhood, and keeping it short, that's key. 6 to 8 is manageable, it prevents overwhelm, and forces real focus, not just superficial contact with dozens.
Okay, that sounds straightforward, but
Yeah.
tracking relationships like that, it takes discipline. Do the sources talk about how to actually do it consistently? It's easy to make a list and then just forget it. Or maybe just focus on the easy ones, the people already at level 2 or 3.
That's a huge challenge, you're right. The human tendency is definitely there. To address it, the system relies on another layer, a micro-practice called the Weekly 5. This is designed to keep that 6 list alive and actionable, pushing beyond just tracking.
Weekly 5. All right, break that down.
Every leader, every disciple with a list, commits to just 5 focused minutes each week. And in those 5 minutes, they look at their list and pick maybe 3 names. Then they do 3 things for those 3 people. 1, pray specifically for them. 2, decide on and make 1 concrete relational move. Maybe it's a quick call, an invitation for coffee, sending an encouraging text, whatever fits their level. And 3, They quickly record the outcome or the next step.
Ah, okay. So it's not about doing something massive for all 6 people every week. It's about consistent, small, intentional actions for a few.
Exactly. That rhythm, pray, act, record ensures the list prompts loving action, not just data entry. It's designed to be short, concrete, repeatable. It prevents that analysis paralysis and keeps the focus on moving relationships forward, even the challenging levels 0 or 1 ones.
So for anyone listening, you could literally start this right now.
Absolutely. The sources give a really practical roadmap if you want to try this. First, grab a piece of paper, list 6 to 8 people you already know, people you care about influencing. Second, assign a CPGS level, 0 to 5, to each one. Be honest. Third, for each person, write down one tangible relational next step that makes sense for their current level. Then finally, commit this week to actually doing that step for maybe 3 of those people. Put the weekly 5 into motion.
That sounds doable.
And when the simple practice gets reproduced systematically, layer by layer, the results can be genuinely powerful. There's a case study mentioned where one leader started tracking just 4 key relationships with this 6-list idea.
Okay.
Within about 9 months, 2 of those 4 were ready to step up to level 5 themselves, starting their own little groups, tracking their own lists. Fast forward 3 years, and that initial leader wasn't just leading 4 people, they were part of a decentralized network of dozens, maybe more. All using the same simple framework, the same language. The data wasn't just reporting history, it was actively shaping the future by making the next step clearer.
Wow. But that implies a huge shift for the original leader, doesn't it? They have to change how they lead.
Oh, completely. This is often the biggest hurdle, especially for experienced leaders. They have to transition from being, say, the main program manager or the primary doer to becoming what the sources call a shepherd coach.
Shepherd coach. What does that mean practically?
It means letting go. It means you're literally handing over the ledger, the responsibility for tracking and initiating. There's anxiety there, right? You're giving up some control to gain scale.
For sure. Less direct oversight.
So the shepherd coach has to fight that impulse to constantly inspect everyone's list. Instead, their primary job becomes equipping others, training people how to maintain their own 6 list, how to discern the patterns, how to decide who to invest in more deeply, who might be ready to send out. Their role shifts to coaching others on how to use the compass, not being the central GPS for the entire network.
And that cultural shift, that definitely requires a different way of measuring success, doesn't it? If attendance isn't the main thing anymore.
Yeah.
What is?
Yeah, the old scorecard just doesn't work. Attendance, as we said, only measures addition, and addition eventually stalls. To really understand if this multiplication engine is firing, you need to track multiplication itself and also the tempo, the speed at which people are developing and reproducing.
Okay, so new metrics, movement metrics. What are the key ones the sources highlight?
The most critical one they talk about is the reproduction ratio, often just called R.
R ratio. Okay, sounds important. What is it?
It's basically the number of new level 5 reproducing leaders or groups generated per existing level 5 leader or group over a given period, like a quarter or a year.
Ah, okay. So if I'm a level 5 leader, how many new level 5s did I help launch?
Exactly. And the crucial number is 1. If your R is greater than 1, R1, you have genuine multiplication happening. Each reproducer is creating more than one successor. That's compound growth in relationships.
And if R is less than 1?
Then, long term, you're shrinking, even if you're adding people at the bottom. If R equals 1, you're just replacing yourself stable, maybe, but not multiplying exponentially. R greater than 1 is the target.
Got it. R1. What else? You mentioned tempo.
Right, the tempo metric. This measures the efficiency of your development process. It's the average time it takes for someone to move from, say, level 2, just connecting, to level 4, actively leading, serving.
Why track that speed?
Because a faster tempo usually signals that your coaching is effective, your process is clear and repeatable. If it consistently takes 5 years to get someone to level 4, your system might be too slow or too complex to fuel rapid multiplication.
Makes sense. So R ratio for multiplication, tempo for speed, any others?
2 more key ones. The invitation rate. This is more of a proactive health indicator. It's the average number of those concrete next relational steps, the calls, the coffees, the invites recorded per disciple per month.
From the weekly 5 practice.
Exactly. Are people actually making those moves? The sources suggest aiming for maybe 2 to 4 such invitations or steps per person per month. It tells you if the engine is actually running or if the lists are just sitting there.
Okay. And the last one.
The sustainability marker. This one looks at resilience. It's the percentage of new microgroups or teams or communities started by these level fives that are still meeting and functioning after, say, 6 months, without needing constant input or oversight from the original staff or senior leaders.
Ah, so proof that the ownership really is transferred.
Right. If those new expressions survive and thrive organically, it's a strong sign that you've built something resilient, something truly decentralized.
Okay, R ratio, tempo, invitation rate, sustainability. That's a different dashboard.
Yeah.
But introducing metrics like this, especially around relationships, it feels like it could easily become cold, like paperwork, judgment.
That is absolutely the danger, the number one pitfall.
How do leaders avoid that? How do they keep it focused on care and celebration, not just hitting numbers?
Yeah, the sources are really emphatic here. Rule number one, avoid turning tracking into just more bureaucracy. Rule number two, never ever use these metrics without mercy, without grace. The data exists to serve the person, not the other way around.
So the numbers should prompt care, not just evaluation.
Precisely. The leader's job, the shepherd coach's job, is to prioritize the qualitative stories, the stories of grace, of struggle, of breakthrough, right alongside the numbers. If a level 4 leaders list suddenly stalls because they're going through a tough personal time, the data point isn't for criticism. It's the signal to initiate care, support, maybe adjust expectations, the ledger, the CPGS, the list. It only exists to help catalyze the next loving specific action and to provide a framework for celebrating every small step of growth.
Okay, so wrapping this up for you, the listener, what's the big takeaway here? It seems like the whole exponential engine really kicks in only when the tool, the tracking, moves from being about the disciples to being something done by the disciples.
That's the core idea, that active entrustment of decentralizing responsibility, it spreads the ownership. And that dramatically increases the resilience of the whole organization, the whole movement. It allows it to scale far beyond the personal capacity of any one founder or leader.
It builds something bigger than yourself.
It really does. And maybe the final provocative thought, drawing from the material, is this. The future belongs to leaders and organizations who don't just measure growth anymore, but who figure out how to systematically multiply it. And that multiplication movement, it can start the very moment you put that simple tracking framework, that compass, into someone else's hands, affirming their potential not just as a follower, but as a future reproducing leader themselves.
A powerful shift. So maybe the encouragement is simply to try one of those steps we talked about. Start your own 6 list today. Identify a few people. Commit to one concrete relational move this week. Start thinking about your relationships not just as connections, but as pathways for reproduction.
It starts small, but the potential is exponential.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.